It's common knowledge that ever since the series began, Pokemon has been incredibly popular around the world, and the trading card game is proof of that. The release of the first TCG sets took over the globe, leading to what we now know as Pokemania. 2 decades later, in 2020, the TCG exploded in popularity once again, however, this time carrying much more sinister consequences. The kids from the 90s were now adults with disposable incomes, so the number of Pokemon fans able to buy the products was much higher, and as a result, the stock was much lower. But this wasn't just limited to existing Pokemon fans. It's hard to talk about the increase in Pokemon collectors without mentioning Logan Paul's base set booster box openings, by far the biggest reason for this resurgence. For a few years, the popularity remained at all-time highs, but did eventually start to decline. Or did it? Well, that's the question that I'm going to be looking at today, and the reason why the answer may not be what you think. Join me in uncovering the truth behind the terrible state of the Pokemon TCG in 2025. Before we get into the video, I'd just like to say that going forward, Pokemon TCG videos aren't really going to be a part of this channel. I'm planning on moving all of my future TCG content to my second channel, which I'll put in the description. I'd appreciate if you subscribed, especially if you want bigger videos like this. But with all that out of the way, let's get back to the video. As I mentioned in the intro, the Pokemon TCG recently saw a huge increase in popularity that rivaled its beginning, but this time it was mostly among the adults, either those who were still Pokemon fans, had played the games when they were younger, or just streamers trying to jump on the trend. And with much wider internet access, the craze spread even faster. Eventually, it seemed like the hype had faded, but recently that's been seeming much less likely. Back in January, a new set was released, which may have been a key reason for this mini resurgence that we're seeing today, that set being Prismatic Evolutions. This set featured many fan favourite Pokemon, most notably Eevee and its 8 evolutions as Terra Pokemon EX. While this undoubtedly drew many people in, another factor is the set's special illustration rare cards. All of the evolutions received SIRs, but the one that everyone was after was Umbreon EX. This didn't really come as a surprise to long-time collectors though. Umbreon has always been on the more popular side of Pokemon cards. For example, Umbreon Gold Star from Pop Series 5 and the Alt-Art VMAX from Evolving Skies, both of which now go for hundreds if not thousands of dollars. All of these factors caused the demand for Prismatic Evolution to skyrocket, and the Pokemon Company was far from ready for this. The set sold out in minutes, or in some cases seconds, due to astoundingly high demand and notably low supply. The situation got so bad that Pokemon had to release an official statement alerting fans that more product and stock would be coming soon, and that they were well aware of the thousands of people struggling to find it. Places such as GameStop issued limits on products, and some businesses completely refused to buy Prismatic Evolutions from distributors due to safety concerns. The set's release was disastrous, and is probably why things seem to have taken a huge turn for the worse in recent months. However, I don't think Prismatic Evolutions is entirely to blame. Sure, it caused major issues with supply and demand, but the demand may not have just been high due to it featuring popular Pokemon. To understand where I'm going with this, let's go back to October of last year when a certain mobile game was released, Pokémon TCG Pocket. This game provided a great opportunity for new fans to experience the card game, both for collecting and playing. Due to it being completely free to play, it became incredibly popular in just a few weeks. You could collect Pokemon cards without having to spend any amount of money. Of course it attracted a lot of new people, but this growth in the fandom may have inadvertently caused more problems than it solved. Millions had begun to see just how fun and addictive the Pokemon TCG could be, even if it meant they had to spend some money on it. This may sound great in theory, but there's a good chance that it just meant product would be even harder to find. If Pocket was never released, I'm sure Prismatic Evolutions would still have sold out insanely fast, but I think the game definitely accelerated it. This trend of being unable to find Pokemon cards continued with later releases, such as Journey Together, which was released on March 28th of this year. Once again, there were reports of low stock and uncontrollable demand. The Pokemon Company continued to issue statements and apologies for the situation, but it seemed like nothing was changing, and this set really didn't help. It featured the return of Trainers Pokemon, a mechanic built for the competitive scene, but at the same time it put even more eyes on the set. Fan favourite characters such as Lily and N came back to the TCG, which was a cool idea, but struck the community's nostalgia a little too hard. In the past few weeks, I've seen a couple packs of the set out in the wild, but for the first few months it was almost impossible to find. With nothing in stock anywhere, people turned to older sets, resulting in them also becoming much harder to find. At this point, it just seemed like a never-ending cycle. People began to realize that sets would sell out instantly no matter what. Many just started to give up, myself included. The best way to find anything for a new set was attending a pre-release event 2 weeks before the set even came out. Nostalgia definitely plays a huge role in the cycle though. It seems like every set this year is trying to lure people in with popular characters and Pokemon. The first 2 sets I mentioned obviously fit this theme, but additionally, Destined Rivals brought Team Rocket back to the game, and you can probably guess how that went. Although, things did seem to be getting better. Pre-orders were staying up for longer, more packs were available both online and in stores. It wasn't perfect, but Pokemon were keeping their promise. Supply was improving. The theme of nostalgia continued in the recently released Black Bolt and White Flare, the first ever double set in English Pokemon TCG history. This was an obvious selling point, getting people to buy twice as many products as usual. The intrigue of this new format, as well as the return of all 156 Unova Pokemon, once again made the sets extremely popular. I'm writing this on the day of release for the sets, and while I haven't been able to find any, I'm staying optimistic. I'm sure that Pokemon knows what they're doing, but what if things begin to happen that are out of their control? With that question, I'm specifically referring to a certain part of the community which has become massively unpopular: the scalpers. If you're unaware, a scalper is someone who buys a certain product, usually a sought after collectible, and sells it for an extortionate price. This strategy works because they know it's popular and in demand. They don't see Pokemon as a fun hobby or a competitive game, they see it as nothing more than an investment. I think this has damaged not only the community's reputation, but the state of the game as a whole. People's only option is to give in and pay ridiculous amounts to get the cards they want. Scalping is just incredibly unhealthy, whether it's Pokemon or something completely different, and you should never buy from them. If you do, you're just giving them what they want, which is only going to increase their numbers. I'd recommend just waiting it out for cards to come back in stock, which may mean a lot of waiting, but it's better than wasting your money on something much cheaper than what they sell it for. Overall, the situation is definitely improving. That's not to say we're back to where we should be, but the community and the Pokemon Company are both going in the right direction. Stock is still incredibly low everywhere, I'm well aware of that, but I would be very surprised that if by the end of the year things aren't at least a little better than they are now. In September, the Mega Evolutions set is releasing, and I really hope that supply keeps going up, but if the pre-orders are anything to go by, it's entirely possible that it will be hard to find. If you're also worried that that will be the case, I'd recommend going to a pre-release event, or getting to know the people at local shops. I can say from experience that smaller businesses can help you out with issues like these if you're a returning customer. With all that said, I'm hopeful for the future of the game, and I'm excited for what Pokemon has in store this year and beyond. Thanks everyone for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as check out my second channel for more TCG related content. I'll see you next time.